DJ Metal Craig of Craig's Maelstrom here, and I have some of the members of Ball with me today. Hopefully, I got the band name right. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves and what position you do in the band?
Sure. I'm Richard. I play bass and also string instruments of various sizes and kinds.
I'm Chris. I play just guitar. No fancy string instruments, just guitar.
I'm Luke. I play drums and occasionally dabble with synths and backing tracks and stuff like that.
Would you guys mind going back in the history of Ball and how the band all got started?
Yeah, so I guess this is a question for me because I was the only one who was there at the start out of the three of us. So yeah, it started in 2016. We're based in Sheffield, which is in the north of the UK. So it was originally started by our other guitarist Nick, who unfortunately can't be here today, with a slightly different lineup. Me and Nick are the two original band members who are still in the band. Started in 2016. Between 2016 and 19, we released a couple of EPs and a single. Single was recorded by Russ Russell, the relatively well-known producer. Released an EP on APF Records, then self-released another EP, did that single in between as well. And then in 2020, we released our debut album, Ellipsism, which came out on Clobber Records, which sadly a record label that are no longer with us, but they released that in 2020. That was the first recording with Luke on drums. And then not long after that, Chris joined the band. So we've just been working on new material since then. And as I'm sure we'll come on to, we're just about to release our new EP, Soft Eyes, on Ripcord Records, which will be the first thing that we've done with Chris on guitar. We're really looking forward to it. We've just released a new single, Ornamental Doll, which is a music video which has come out in the last week or so. And yeah, we're just looking forward to doing that and getting out and playing some more songs from that release.
Right on. This next one's a real good one. How did you guys come up with the band name Ball?
Well, again, I mean, I'll answer this one because I was the one who was there at the start. But it's predominantly it's a cool metal sounding word. It's got various different meanings. It's a Hebrew word. It's in the Bible. It's a biblical demon. It's a Hebrew word that means Lord. I think it's got, it comes up in various different fantasy things as a demonic character. I think it's also in Star Trek. It's got a few different meanings, but it's fairly demonic. It sounds quite metal, and it has some cool historical meanings that sort of vary across different cultures and stuff.
It's ironic because the band name doesn't really reflect the lyrical themes of the band, but it's a cool name, so.
Yeah.
Who designed the Ball band logo?
The current logo that we use was designed by a guy called Fraser Briggs from a band called Still, who actually, I happen to have a print of his here which says Live, Laugh, Suffer. I don't know if you can read it, but it says, anyway, he designed that. He's from a band called Still, who are based in Hull, which is also in the north of the UK. They're sort of like a similarly sort of blackened post-metal band with a bit more hardcore leanings, but he's also a graphic designer, so he made that logo for us, which we really liked.
That's cool, man. Just so you guys know, I think the logo for your band, the one for the new album art and the album, is absolutely sick and amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who's all not with you today from Ball, and what instruments do they play?
There's another guitarist called Nick, who's the other founding member who's still in the band alongside me, and then there's our vocalist Joe, who also writes all of our lyrics.
Sadly, they're both ill at the moment, so they can't make it.
Go ahead, Chris. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry.
That's all right. I was just saying they're both ill at the moment, so they unfortunately can't be here.
Okay, I understand. The next one is a good one. You did an appearance on a compilation for APF Records in 2018 with a song titled One Under the Sun. How do you feel being on this compilation?
So yeah, that was back in an earlier incarnation of the band where only me and Nick from the current lineup were in the band at that point. It was with our previous vocalist, so we sounded a little bit different at that point. But yeah, no, that was cool. It was a track from our first EP, In Gallows by Mass, which was released on APF Records. So that was the record label that we were already part of. They did a lot for us in the early days, and we were playing a lot of gigs around that time with other APF bands. So yeah, they put together a compilation of, I think it was just tracks from different artists that were on the label at the time. that was probably the most popular track off that EP, which people seemed to like. And yeah, it was really cool. It was, you know, a cool little community we were part of quite early on in our career. It sort of really helped sort of put us on the map in the UK and getting us gigs and stuff. So yeah, it was cool. We've done another compilation since, you know, Ripcord Records, who are currently releasing the new EP on, they've done a couple of compilations for charity, which we've put some of our more recent tracks onto as well. And it's just cool to be sort of showcased as part of the UK scene.
Right on. This next one, you guys all might be able to be involved a little bit in. What are the band's immediate music career goals?
Well, I mean, play some
Keep doing
cool
more of the same.
gigs. Yeah. Well, we've since I joined the band, it's been really cool. We've played a lot of gigs. We've done a few tours. We've played some really good shows. So I'm just excited for people to hear the new music and just play some more gigs. Hopefully, you know, bigger and better, and keep kind of improving as we go. So yeah, immediate goals are just there's a couple of festivals in the UK that we'd love to get on. But that's primarily for me. That's, you know, like playing to more people so that we can get our music across to more people, and hopefully they appreciate it.
Yeah, I think in general, you know, we just try to make the music that connects with us and tells stories that we're passionate about, and really any, you know, in terms of career, as you put it, like any success that comes from that, you know, we're happy to take on, like, and, you know, take the advantages of however people respond to that. But it's, you know, we're not necessarily actively saying, oh, we want to do this by this time or whatever. You know, we're just doing what we're passionate about, and people seem to respond well to that, and, you know, and we're happy to play gigs for them.
I'm just waiting to see if you want to add anything.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I think they've covered it all really. Yeah, I mean, you know, this new stuff we've just finished writing that we're about to release is, you know, it's got a few interesting sort of slight changes on our template. We're playing out with a few new things, some new extra instrumentation and layers and stuff. So I think also just getting that out, seeing what the reaction's like will also be cool. But otherwise, yeah, like the other said, it's just more of the same, trying to reach more people.
Okay, wasn't sure if you had anything to add to the question I was asking, but if you guys are cool with it, we're going to get into some stuff about the new album now.
Yeah, sure.
You just released an album titled Soft Eyes that drops on May 19th. Where can the album be pre-ordered or purchased?
It's actually, I think it's May the 3rd that it's coming out. I think there maybe was some confusion with the date the single came out. I think it was April the 19th, so that might have been the confusion. But it's May the 3rd that it's coming out. It's an EP, 3 tracks, which is, for us, that's basically album length anyway. That's like 30 minutes of music. It can be pre-ordered from Ripcord Records, from their Bandcamp. You can get CDs, which are really nice digipacks, which were, you know, designed by our guitarist Nick, who did all the artwork apart from the logo, which we mentioned earlier. So you can pre-order the CDs from there, or you can go to our Bandcamp to pre-order the digital version, and then obviously on release day it'll be on all the streaming services as well.
I apologize for getting the date wrong. I looked it up in the email and it said May 19th in the email.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, maybe there was a confusion on our side there.
All right, for this next one, who came up with the album title Soft Eyes, and what is the meaning behind it?
So our vocalist Joe came up with the album title, and I'm going to try and interpret what he's told us about why he came up with that title. So the idea of soft eyes is a concept from, I think, kind of detective work and like policing, where the idea is that you sort of look at a scene and look at a situation and try and take in as much as possible and kind of view things with empathy and view things with understanding. So the way we sort of interpreted that is essentially viewing people, situations and events with a degree of empathy and a degree of understanding, and trying to kind of bridge the gap between us and them, essentially. So it's about kind of opening yourself up and trying to show some kindness and some compassion for people and for their situations. So the songs on the album all deal with different topics that are quite, obviously our thing is we do very emotional songs, like very emotive subject matter. And on this EP, all the tracks kind of deal with some kind of sort of emotional topic that where empathy and understanding is kind of a key part of that.
Right on. Just so you guys know, if you're cool, can I get you to talk about my favorite song off the album? Because you already answered the question about the artwork, so we're going to skip a question.
Sure.
What were the themes and concepts behind the song Bamber Bridge?
So this is actually based on a specific historical event called the Battle of Bamber Bridge, which took place in Northern England. And if I recall correctly, I think it was essentially a group of American servicemen who were stationed there during the war, and essentially there were a bunch of people kind of being racist about them, and sort of the community gathered round and kind of stood up against the racism, and kind of had their backs. So the concept of that song is essentially, about trying to have that understanding and trying to kind of reach out to people and say, look, the racism hurts the people who do it as well as the people who suffer it, and it's trying to be kind of more sort of nuanced than just saying racism is bad. It's trying to kind of find a solution to that problem. But yeah, so a lot of it deals with a specific historical event that's not far from where we are, so it sort of has that connection.
Yeah, so I think that it's using that historical event to sort of talk about the themes, like Chris says, beyond just racism being bad, sort of like not using hate to fight hate, essentially, because that just creates more hate in the world, and that's not what we need. So it's using a historical event to sort of approach that topic that way.
Where have you toured?
So we've thus far I've only played within the UK. Maybe we're hoping one day that might change, but for now we've played a lot around the UK, pretty much all over the north and south of England. We've been to Scotland once so far. We're about to go and do it for a second time. We've played in Wales. So yeah, we've toured most of the way around the UK. We've done sort of two main sort of actual tours of a bunch of gigs back to back with a couple of bands that we're friends with. So we're hoping to do more of that. It's just all been within the UK.
Okay, and hopefully, if you guys ever get a chance to, I hope you come up to Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada for a show at some point.
That'd be amazing.
I'd love to.
What are some of your favorite moments when on tour?
When we stayed in a chalet up in Scotland where they had chickens.
That's true. Yeah, that was good.
And that was a highlight.
Waking up after a late night gig and then going outside and hand feeding some chickens and then eating some fresh eggs that they just probably laid a couple of days earlier. That was pretty cool.
You can find some brilliant places on Airbnb if you look.
Yeah.
Or when we got into Cardiff, just as there was some sort of I don't know, a police jumping out of a car in front of us to sort out some sort of gun crime going on in a shop, something like that. It was difficult to tell what was going on. But,
I wouldn't say that was necessary. I don't know if that's necessarily a favourite moment, but it was a dramatic entry. Yeah.
Yeah, but the highlight of it was that you had Nickelback on in the car, Richard. So I thought,
that's true.
I don't want to associate this memory with this band.
Yeah. Let's just say our tour driving playlist covers a lot of bases, and there may have been some listening to Nickelback, which may or may not have been ironic, and I refuse to say which.
I think on the musical side as well, you go to a lot of cities, and especially when you're driving far away, and you can end up sometimes feeling a bit. You kind of have expectations of how many people are going to turn up to the gigs and what sort of support you're going to get, but so far, like even when we've been a bit pessimistic about what support we're going to find at the shows, we've always been somewhat blown away by the amount of people there and the amount of support we've had, and I think that's just an overarching highlight from a lot of the shows we've played. Especially
there's been some really great gigs. Yeah, there's been some really good gigs in a lot of cities where it's just been like incredible crowds. Like Liverpool in particular, I think we seem to have a really good following in Liverpool, which is nice.
Yeah.
Every time we go there, it's just a really good crowd.
Yeah, and I know Joe, our vocalist, has he's had some really heartwarming experiences after our sets where people have come up to him and fed back about how impactful the concepts of the songs have been in helping people work through their own problems. Like whether that be through the album or through the live experience as well. You know, it's always really reassuring to get that sort of feedback and know that we're able to help people in that way.
What are some of your favorite moments when in the studio?
I think we're definitely a band that enjoys spending time at the studio. I mean, you'd hope so, because we spend a lot of time there. The amount of stuff that we end up throwing into songs when we're writing them and demoing them, you know, all our songs are very long, and we do go a bit overboard with adding stuff to them. So I think there's a lot of fun to be had with just playing around with adding extra layers of lead guitars or synths or weird extra stuff. Sometimes it's hard to know where to stop, and that's a problem that we do have. But it's always fun doing that. And this new stuff that we've recorded was recorded at No Studio in Manchester with Joe Clayton, who also recorded our first album. And he's a really great guy that we all get on with really well, and he's really good at sort of guiding us in the right direction and letting us play with stuff to an extent, but knowing, like what's going to sound good, how to get the best tone, what pedal to use, all this kind of stuff. And we love sort of just throwing ourselves into it, seeing where it goes, and then just messing about, but getting a lot of stuff done at the same time.
I was going to say my favorite part of being in the studio was the point where we got cursed and the studio basically flooded, because it started raining so badly that just the whole studio, water was coming through the ceiling. Yeah, that was a great moment, because it was towards the end of the day, and it was like, great, what are we going to do? Are we going to be able to come back in tomorrow and carry on? It was definitely an experience, but
yeah, it was memorable.
For me as well, we generally do the drum recordings at the beginning of the sort of recording process. So I'll generally come in, record the drums to the demos that we'll have prepared, and then I'll go away for a few days while they're recording the rest of the guitars and vocals, and then come back in towards the end to see how it's getting on. And it's always really fun to just come back in after that sort of initial bit and just see how much the actual guitars and bass, vocals, layers add to the song compared to what we are able to demo on our own home. Like, it's incredible seeing how far it comes together in such a short amount of time.
Just so you guys know, before we get into the next question, I jammed the album before the interview, Soft Eyes, and it's absolutely freaking awesome. My favorite song was the one I asked you guys about earlier.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Who are the band's musical influences?
Depends who you ask.
Well, there is that. Yeah, we do all have quite varied sort of tastes and interests and stuff within and outside of metal as well. But I guess the ones you can probably hear the most, that come up the most often, are sort of like, there's a lot of big post-metal bands, Cult of Luna and Amon-Ra and Neurosis, things like that. The Ocean as well. And then black metal bands and post-black metal bands, Alcest, obviously I'm wearing the Alcest t-shirt, Alcest and Death Heaven and Wolves in the Throne Room, atmospheric sort of side of black metal, and the shoegazy side of black metal as well. But then, there's other influences. There's bits of metalcore and gent in there. There's proggy bits. There's sludgy bits. Yeah, there's plenty of bits of Mastodon and proper nasty sludge bands as well. Primitive Man, things like that. Luke is big into prog, and so we've only got more proggy since Luke's joined the band as well. There's more of that stuff going on. Post rock as well. There's all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, are you into depressive black metal at all?
Yeah. Our vocalist Joe's really into it as well.
Kill Yourself.
I do know that name. I've never listened to them. I suspect Joe probably knows them.
All their songs are 15 to 30 minutes in length.
Probably a bit more heavy, I think.
It's impressive. I mean, it's a long time to be sad for.
Aspirational goals.
Please give some bass tips or advice for starting out bassists.
Interesting. I mean, I think like most bass players, I started out. I was classically trained on string instruments, violin and viola, before I picked up the bass. But in terms of bass stuff, I sort of started like most people do, which is just working out the root notes and sitting there just like playing very, very basic root notes for chord progressions and songs that I liked. And I think that probably is the best way to start out. I would say, it's very easy to, if you have any kind of musical knowledge, it's very easy to play bass in a very simple way, just working out what the root notes of chords are, playing along to songs that way. And that does sort of give you an understanding of the way that bass lines move, the way that chord progressions work. And then you can build up from there quite easily just by filling in the stuff that happens in between, essentially. So I would say, yeah, I think it's just about learning basic chord progressions and how they move around and how the root notes of the chords move, and then you can get started pretty quickly and then just filling in things from that point.
This next one's for the drummer. Please give some drum tips or advice for starting out drummers.
Well, yeah, nice broad question. But, I think one of the first things to do when you're starting out is really try to get a grasp of how you learn best. Like I follow so many drum forum pages out there, and this is a common discussion, like whether people should seek in-person lessons, online lessons, whether just watching YouTube videos and things is the right way to go. And I think nowadays there's so much information out there and so many ways to approach learning an instrument and getting into an instrument that, to some extent at the beginning, you're worthwhile trying a bit of all of the options and see what really resonates with you. Like personally, I started out learning with in-person drum lessons, and that really helped me sort of because I'm not very good at being disciplined on myself. So having someone that I go to on a weekly basis was very good at helping me just sort of hone techniques and things like that, and that was really valuable for me. Other people might be a lot better at doing that sort of things themselves and not need someone to sort of help enforce your progression, especially at a young age. But yeah, I mean that would be my sort of summary advice, I suppose, for starting out.
And the next one's for the guitarist. Please give some guitar tips or advice for starting out guitarists.
So, I mean, my first guitar was a Squier Stratocaster, and literally all I did was I just strummed all the strings, got the whammy bar, and just whammied it down. So it made whole stupid noises, and then tuned it back up again and just did it again. So, which does feed into, I think my tip is just find the thing that you enjoy doing and then keep doing it. So if what you enjoy doing is playing, playing a punk song where there's 3 chords and it's just 3 power chords, if you enjoy doing that, keep doing it. Because if you don't enjoy it at any point, if you're starting to dislike playing the instrument, it's just going to kill your enthusiasm for it. So, find the thing that you enjoy doing, find the thing that you have fun doing. And then ideally that thing will feed into what you want to do, what you want to achieve creatively or what you want to achieve musically. But that's the thing, make it fun. Find the thing that you like doing and just do that.
Yeah. I think that absolutely applies to all of the instruments, really.
Yeah.
Before I started playing drums, I actually played clarinet, and I think I stopped playing clarinet because I didn't find it fun. No, I just needed to focus more on blues.
And just so you guys know, actually, I am, besides the DJ, I'm a vocalist myself. I do death metal and black metal vocals. Here's a small sample where I can do this that you guys might recognize. The moon, she hangs like a cruel portrait. Cradle of
Nice.
Filth.
Cradle of Filth. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I do that. I go into his high screens. I can do death metal growls like Glenn Benton, Chris Barnes, George Fisher. I do some Malignancy. I'm learning a bit of Deeds of Flesh.
Nice.
I can't do my growls on you because my mic cut out the interview because of how loud I am.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I learned without a mic, so my projection is so loud. I actually was at a live concert with a mic about that far away from me, and I blew out the PA speaker with a Japanese-style high grindcore streak.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
So that's the thing I've got to learn. It's how to control my vocal projection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, our vocalist Joe is good at that. It's an impressive skill.
Yeah. Do you have any social media outlets the band can be reached on?
Yeah, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on X. which I still cringe to say, Twitter. We're on YouTube as well. So Instagram, Facebook, and I think Twitter as well are all Bar Band UK. YouTube, you probably have to search us to find the channel, but we've got stuff on there. We've also got a blog, which is our website, barband.co.uk, I think, and everything's listed on there as well.
Okay, this next one's a really good one. It might get all three of you fired up. What advice do you have for people who want to form their own bands?
Well, first of all, put your ego in a box and then take the box and hide it somewhere, because if you're going to be in a band with other people, you need to accept that you're going to have creative differences. You're going to disagree on things, and that's fine. And if you're coming in with an ego going, I always know best, that's not the right approach. That's not the right attitude for being in a band. You have to kind of go, right, we're all going into this, let's all agree that what we all want to do and work towards it together. So that's the main thing. It's less about being good at your instrument. I mean, that it helps if you can turn up and play well and all that stuff. But it's more about the attitude. I think it's about being being creative and constructive and not being full of yourself.
Yeah, I would say definitely that, but also I think it's just important that you play. I mean, like Chris was saying with learning guitar, and like we were saying earlier about the sort of songs, the topics that we write our songs about, I think you just have to find something that you're actually passionate about and just do that and keep doing it. And then if people like it, they'll find you, rather than making any effort to try and write something with a specific audience in mind, or thinking, oh, this thing is popular, so let's try and do that, that sort of thing. It might get you somewhere in the short term, but it doesn't really have any staying power. Whereas if you just do something that you actually believe in, I think people can usually sense that, and if they're into it, then they'll be into it more and they'll stick with you.
Yeah, similarly, when you're trying to put a band together, similar to what they've been saying, it's a matter of finding people who have a balance of being good at their instruments, who are have similar musical goals to you. Some level of overlapping music taste always helps, but obviously, as is in the case of Bal, having a somewhat diverse musical taste can add a rich tapestry to the music that you're able to create. And yeah, it's all about finding the right people for the band. Once you have the right people together in a room, the music will happen. That's the crucial ingredient, really.
That's kind of the easy part, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you have? Almost asked the same question by accident twice. Got lost in the questions. What could a band do to better promote themselves?
Good question.
I mean, the main thing is getting out there and just playing shows and kind of getting your name out there, because you might play a show and there might be 5-10 people in the audience who are like, wow, that was the best band I've ever seen, and then they will kind of evangelize for you, they'll sort of support you, and they'll kind of tell people about you. So the best thing, I still think, even in the world we live in now, with everyone being online all the time, I still think the best thing, the best connection you can make, is just to put on a really good show and kind of have people walking away going, let's say there were 5 bands on the bill and that was the band, they were the best one of the night. For me, that's still the best way to do it.
I think as well, you need a balance of approaches. If you just put all of your time and effort into, we're going to promote ourselves through this one platform, whether it be TikTok or Facebook or whatever, then you're not going to do as well as if you have a bit, approach all of these platforms, or a variety of these platforms to some extent, playing gigs, like Chris said, putting yourself out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But you don't have to do it loads on each. You just need to make sure that you have some level of presence on them, and that you don't, and if people like what you're doing, they'll stick around.
I think, to some extent, you do have to play the game a little bit in terms of promoting yourself online and trying to, have a good aesthetic on your Instagram, and keep things constantly being uploaded and stuff like that, and you know that's an unfortunate reality for being in a band these days. But yeah, I think like the others said, you can't rely on that, and that's not gonna build a fan base that actually lasts. That might get you a little bit of attention here and there, but yeah, you need to just have good music and play it to people, and if they like it, then they'll find it and they'll follow you, and that's really the important thing. So yeah, going out playing gigs and making sure you've got good quality recordings and all that is the most important thing.
We've got 4 more for the interview, and then I'll need the station IDs.
Sure.
Does the band have any band gear endorsements?
We don't. No, sadly not.
Independent.
Open for offers.
Yeah.
Shoot, trying to remember my last question. Frick. What is the purpose behind the band's future career? Is there anything planned for new albums and such?
So we do have more music that we've written and recorded, which will be coming out after Soft Eyes. We're not really in a position to talk about it yet, but basically since the pandemic and since Chris joined the band, we wrote a lot of music, and we sat down and we sorted it out and we worked out what things went together. Soft Eyes, the 3 tracks on that were 3 songs that we felt fitted well together, which is why they're coming out together. But there is a lot of other stuff that we're sitting on, which will be coming in due course. So the answer is yes, there's more to come.
What is the latest band you've been jamming on in your arsenal? As in something new to the arsenal that you haven't listened to before?
Something new.
I mean, I think we're all into exploring new music quite often. We on the blog that I mentioned earlier, we do like monthly Spotify playlists where some of us talk about stuff we've been listening to recently. One that I have been listening to, which is new to me personally, is an artist called Thief. I think he's a solo artist who I want to say is based in LA. I'm not 100% sure. Sort of does a kind of sort of art pop, like beat heavy art pop, but with lots of samples from like choral music and church music. Religious music is like the basis, with then like heavy beats over the top, and then he does like sort of quite ethereal singing. A recent discovery. I've only listened to his first album, which is from quite a long time ago. I think he's got more that I've not got to yet, but that's one for me personally, just sort of a ambient-ish pop thing with choral samples, which is really cool.
I found out about a band called Sonia not too long ago. I think they had an album that came out last year. Can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's kind of like kind of quite classic sounding heavy metal, but like it's got this sort of cool kind of claustrophobic atmosphere to it. So I think it's pretty sort of straight down the line, but it's done in a way that's sort of kind of winking at those conventions of heavy metal. That's pretty good.
And compared to the other guys, I'm pretty bad at keeping up to date with new music that's coming out, so I'll just gloss over me.
Luke's probably just been listening to Meshuggah non-stop since birth.
Meshuggah, bit of fusion. I was listening to one artist that I have been listening to this year is Jacob Collier, who did a new album, but that's not very metal at all.
Well, neither was mine, to be fair. But I mean, yeah, we all listen to horrible metal as well. Plenty of black metal and plenty of death metal.
Yeah.
Right on. That leaves us with the last question of the interview, and then we'll get on to the station IDs.
Sure.
What new band news do you have on the ball front, as in anything we haven't covered so far in this interview?
I think we've covered most of it. I mean, yeah, Soft Eyes coming out in just over a week's time. That's sort of the main thing that we're focusing on. That's
gigs.
Yeah, we've got shows coming up for anyone who might be watching in the UK. We're playing in Glasgow on the 4th of May, which is the day after the EP comes out. We've got a few other gigs coming later in the year, which I'm just surreptitiously trying to look at my other screen and look at the list. We're playing in Sheffield, which is our hometown, on the 25th of next month. And then Manchester on the 30th, supporting Sunken, who are a really cool atmospheric black metal band from Denmark. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're a really cool band. We're supporting them. And then some other stuff we're working on, which we haven't announced yet, but we've got some other shows later in the year. We're playing in London in October, and some other bits and pieces that we're trying to just finalize things for. But yeah, the EP, the single Ornamental Doll came out last week, so there's a lyric video you can check out now, and then obviously the whole thing comes out next week. Other than that, yeah, just if people want to follow us, and eventually we'll be talking about more new music after that, and obviously gigs and stuff. It's just yeah, people can find us online and they'll see everything there.
Cool, man. Before we get into the station IDs, I'd like to thank Chris and Paul from Imperative PR who set me up with this interview through Ripcord Records.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Imperative and Ripcord have both been great, so we really appreciate it.
And now for the station IDs. I'll use you, Richard, as the example, and the other two members will follow you up afterwards. It goes, hey, this is Richard of Ball, and you're listening to Mangled Music Radio.
Mangled Music Radio, nice. Okay, cool. This is Richard from Basel, and you're listening to Mangled Music Radio.
Just waiting for the other guys.
Hey, this is Luke from Basel, and you're listening to Mangled Music Radio.
Hey, this is Chris from Basel, and you're listening to Mangled Music Radio.
And then the last station ID I need from you guys is for Craig's Metal Storm in a similar fashion.
Craig's Metal Storm, cool. This is Richard from Basel, and you're listening to Craig's Metal Storm.
Hey, this is Luke from Basel, and you're listening to Craig's Metal Storm.
Hey, this is Chris from Basel, and you're listening to Craig's Metal Storm.
Thank you guys very much for your time, and thank you guys very much for the interview.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate it.
You guys have yourselves a wonderful rest of your evening. I'll be in touch with you guys again soon when we have another album to talk about.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much,
everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
Okay.